Alright guys, I've just eaten my way through this entire packet of cookies. I have just bitten every single one of my fingernails off. And that is all thanks to Outlander episode 409, The Birds and the Bees. My review is coming out right after this. Roger. Oh boy, Roger. We ended up talking mostly about Roger last week. We finished the episode, we finished the review talking about Roger last week. And in this week's episode, I think I'm probably going to be talking quite a lot about Roger again. Poor old Roger. What can I say? Anyway guys, thank you very much for joining me on this week's episode of Outlander Sunday with me, Shaun. I'm a vlogger from Edinburgh in Scotland. I talk all about Scottish culture, Scottish adventures, travel, all that kind of stuff, and Outlander. Outlander is a very important cultural show for anybody who's interested in Scotland, and that is why I talk about it here on this channel, right here in my vlog. I appreciate very much all you guys being here. Thank you so much. It's great to have you. And you know the routine. If you're new here, do not forget to hit the big red subscribe button down below so that you can keep in touch with all of my videos from now on. You might recognize the background of the video right now is a little bit different, and that is because I am not at home. I'm currently traveling for New Year's. I'm on a bit of a holiday right now, which is why I've not posted many videos over the last week. I'm currently in Prague, in the Czech Republic, and I'm going to be staying here for the next 4 or 5 days over New Year. I've never really spent any time here before, so I'm going to be getting to know it. I'm going to be doing lots of adventures, and if you want to see my behind the scenes of what I'm up to here in Prague, follow me on Instagram because I'm doing stories there. There will be vlogs coming and announcements on the vlog over the next couple of weeks about what's happening there. But you know what? I could not let this episode of Outlander go by unreviewed by me on the Sunday nights. I just could not let that happen. I had to come here and talk to you guys about what we just saw because look at my nails, I'm a nervous wreck right now. I need to talk to somebody about what I just saw. We're going to be speaking a lot about Roger in today's episode, and I'll get to that at the end. But I do want to go back to last week's episode, which we talked about Roger a lot as well. Roger was an idiot, right? I make no bones whatsoever about saying that, and it seems by the comments most people agreed. I think we need to probably revisit that, right? Roger was an absolute idiot, yes he was, and how he acted and how he behaved, storming off like he did, which ultimately led to Brianna coming into a lot of difficulties with Stephen Bonnet and being raped. But here's one thing I will say. I think a lot of fans sometimes get a bit disconnected between the characters and the actor. Because what I clearly said last week as well was Roger, an idiot, but the acting with Rick Rankin and Sophie Skelton, the two that play Roger and Brianna, was phenomenal throughout. And a lot of people have been giving Rick Rankin stick on places like Twitter, for example. There's been a lot of conversations over the last couple of days about the performance in the show and what Roger had been doing to Brianna. And like, I think sometimes we just need to like disconnect the characters from the actors, because the fact is, Roger being an idiot, Rick Rankin still performed amazingly as an actor to portray that character one way or another, right? I give him and Sophie, who plays Bree, so much credit for what they've done coming into the show and how they have evolved their characters leading up to today's episode. And wow, what an episode it was. We'll get to Roger, right? But first of all, this was the big reveal, the one that you guys have all been waiting for. Brianna,
your message for me, lass?
Finally makes it to Fraser's Ridge. She meets her father, Jamie, in Wilmington. The Fraser family are basically together.
I haven't had much luck changing history in the past, Cliff.
So Brianna has returned from what her horrible ordeal with Stephen Bonnet. And Lizzie, who is her maid, tries to console her, knows that something's wrong, but doesn't get any more information out of Brianna about who did it or what exactly happened. Lizzie just knows something terrible happened.
Mistress, you're bleeding.
Roger, meanwhile, goes back to see Stephen Bonnet. Stephen Bonnet's like, well, you haven't finished your trip yet. You're coming with us, sunshine, Roger, or you're going to lose a limb. One day, Stephen Bonnet is going to get what is due to him. I am convinced of that, and I can't wait for that day. Enough of that. Roger is going back on the boat with him to the next port. Brianna is on her own with Lizzie. I was quite surprised by this. Just a few minutes into the episode after that, Lizzie's like, Brianna, listen, I've got some good news for you. We've been hearing some stories about something that happened the night before at a theatre with a Mr. Fraser and his wife, the healer. Brianna knows it's Jamie, knows that they're there in the town, and goes off looking for him. Finds a man and says, has this man, Mr. Fraser, been here? And he says, he's been here, he's round the back actually. Brianna goes round the back. Jamie is taking a pee against the barn door or something like that. And then Brianna finds him, basically. And that was a scene coming up that everybody, I think everybody in it who is a fan of Outlander has been waiting for. That meeting between Brianna and Jamie. Jamie doesn't know at first who he's speaking to. Brianna knows it from the very first second. Can we just say that right now? The acting between the two of those in that meeting was phenomenal. So emotional, so deep. And it was like, I had goosebumps. I literally had goosebumps on my arm. It was so good, and what a meeting it was. And like, I'd love to know what you guys think. I know how I felt. I thought it was incredible. Great scene. Great acting. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Book readers have had that in their mind for a long time, I'm sure, about how they hoped that would play out. Me not having read on that far in the books, I've got no expectations in that front. All I can say is, as somebody who's been watching the show, it was an incredible moment. And I just absolutely loved seeing that come to play. And then like a few minutes later, Jamie and Brianna are sitting on a bench and Jamie calls out Sassenach. Claire turns around and what she sees Brianna there as well. She is just as shocked as anybody else to see Brianna there. And they have this big emotional reunion and it was just incredible. I don't know what to say about that other than the fact that the acting was just absolutely sublime by those three. There was a lot of things at play, right? The facial expressions, that had to be spot on and it just was. It was just absolutely incredible. The emotions just built up. The soundtracks that they used were incredible. The people who put this scene together, everything had to be perfect and I think they pulled it off absolutely amazingly. I absolutely loved it. That was always going to be the big moment for this episode to talk about. And it doesn't come in at the end of this episode. It was only after about 14 or 15 minutes, I think, that this all happened. I felt like almost we were relieved from a lot of tension about waiting for that to happen. So yeah, what a moment. I'd just love to share that with you guys and get to know what your perspective and opinion is on how that played out. Did you like it? What were your feelings and thoughts when you saw that? Did you get goosebumps like I did? Did you munch through a packet of cookies like I did? Did you bite all your fingernails off? Wow, that was just so emotional and tense. And then young Ian comes back into the mix of things. He appears and he's introduced to his cousin Brianna. So like everybody's reunited. They get the boat back up the river. They're going to Fraser Ridge. Rollo is there as well. Basically the whole family almost is reunited. Claire gets some information out of Brianna about Roger and is obviously concerned about that story and thinks it's a bit mad that they went their separate ways, that Roger left Brianna on her own over one fight when they're supposed to love each other. And I'm just thinking to myself, Claire, we are all thinking exactly the same thing as you are. Why was that all over? Why did they go their separate ways over one stupid fight? It was absurd. It was ridiculous. Roger was an idiot. A lot of things might not have happened if Roger didn't do what he did, right? A lot of people who are book readers didn't like how he's been portrayed in that front. Leaving Brianna was irresponsible. But I have to say this, right? After watching this week's episode, I think my opinion has changed about him, and I have swung all the way around 360 to a position of feeling extremely bad for Roger after what happened to him.
I appreciate that, Captain, but I intend to stay here.
Ian's talking to Brianna about Roger and what happened there. Stephen Bonnet flashbacks. It's really tense. Those are flashbacks that none of us want to see. It makes everybody involved uncomfortable, obviously Brianna. And we kind of relive that, I think, throughout this episode, time and time again, as Brianna is questioned about Roger. And she's remembering this whole scene with Stephen Bonnet. But anyway, Brianna has told Jamie and Claire why she's there. Why it wasn't so important that she had to be there is that she knew about the obituary. She had to tell them that they are actually due to die in a fire at Fraser's Ridge on the 21st of January. They don't know the exact year though. And I think Claire and Jamie, when they're talking about this, it sounds quite funny, but they're basically like, well, we're just going to have to take a holiday a few days around that date every single year to make sure that doesn't happen, right? I'm not sure it's quite as simple as that, but even Jamie, he's got his suspicions that it's going to be more difficult than that because, like he says, they have never been very good at changing history in the past. Anyway, they make it back to Fraser's Ridge, the cabin, and who's there? Murtagh. Murtagh is there. He made it back. Jamie warned him last week about his activities as a regulator and that Governor Tryon had discovered their activities and discovered that Murtagh was ahead of it and he was going to get caught and probably hung. He was saved from that and he's made his way to Fraser's Ridge. We're all so happy to see him there, right? I'm so happy that Murtagh made the right decision and he's back at Fraser's Ridge. And it looks like he might be with the family for a very long time now. And it was just so funny after there because we're in the cabin, we're in the Fraser Ridge log cabin, and we've got Murtagh telling all the stories about Jamie as a kid with his first experience of kissing a girl, and then that girl being Dougal's daughter, and then what Dougal did to Jamie next. And it was just a really good family moment, I think. Having everybody together, Murtagh, Jamie, Claire, Brianna, young Ian, we've got Rollo there as well. It's just a big family reunion. From there on in, it's like a lot of time that Brianna and Jamie get to spend together. They're out shooting, and they obviously bring up Frank. And it's an awkward thing, but Claire suggests that Jamie and Brianna actually go off hunting together in the woods. and they go off looking for actually honey, a hive of bees that they can bring back to Fraser's Ridge. And that's a trip when they're going to really, really get to know each other properly, have some deep conversations about life, talk about Frank, and then Jamie's respect for Frank and how he talked about Frank was really, really quite amazing. I think that's what made the whole thing okay. Brianna actually said quite early on there that this isn't her home actually, which gives us the impression that she will be going back. And you can see that Jamie absolutely doesn't want her to go, and you can see in later conversations he actually says with Claire, like, he doesn't want her to go back. And then we've got the emotional scenes between Jamie and Claire where Jamie's like, she called me Da. Da, by the way, is a word that we use in Scotland quite a lot, even today, so that was quite a nice touch. It's quite funny that we're using the word brie, which apparently means disturbance. I didn't know that. I don't speak Gaelic. Most people in Scotland don't speak Gaelic, so it's something we just don't know about. But yeah, it's something that Murtagh, Jamie and young Ian have a good laugh about, is the fact that brie means disturbance. And Jamie ends up having another name for her in Gaelic, which means darling. I didn't catch what the word is. I wouldn't have known how to repeat it in any case. Anyway, eventually, Jamie and Claire have to discuss that raw point of Brianna going back. Jamie's like quite comfortable with her being there now. So he's feeling really sad about it, and he's like, and the way he told Claire that it was a gift that she was there back in time. The whole thing was just a great family reunion, I thought. Towards the end, we sense the tone is changing. Lizzie keeps talking to Brianna about what happened because she's been having nightmares, tries to get the facts out of her. Brianna doesn't want to talk, but eventually she has to talk to Claire because Claire knows something's wrong, and then it comes out. So Brianna's pregnant, right? We're all thinking, well, it must be Roger's, but it could also be Stephen Bonnet's. But then we learn from Brianna, she actually says to Claire that Roger did not, how do I put this in a PC way? He did not, wow, this is uncomfortable. Roger did not make the transaction. Is that a good way to say this? You know what I mean? We don't need to get any more details on that. Roger didn't, which is obviously a horrendous, tragic thing that's happened because Brianna's now pregnant because of that. That just immediately complicates everything. Claire is really upset, like trying to console Brianna, and it's obviously going to be difficult for a lot of people to watch, again, because we saw it last week on screen, and then to relive Brianna's emotions about it, it's tough, you know. It was just a horrendous thing. And now the fact that she's pregnant as well. She thinks Roger is basically gone as well, back through time. Claire also has to tell the news to Jamie, which starts off his anger. You can see him start to brew at that point, already plotting his revenge. He doesn't know who or what or why, he just knows it's happened and he wants to get revenge. Claire didn't even know it was Stephen Bonnet either, but then she finds the ring. The ring that Stephen Bonnet had taken off her and given back to Brianna. So actually, like, it wasn't the same ring that they used in the books, but in terms of this episode, we all see it come together now, why they used that ring. Claire now knows, and she consoles Brianna once again because she knows the type of man that Stephen Bonnet is and what he's capable of. Anyway, Jamie's went off into the woods. Lizzie and young Ian are off in the woods as well, and who did they bump into? Roger has come back. Roger the man has come back after Brianna. You know what? I'm going to give Roger a lot more credit again because, like, he could have just went home. He had went onto the ship. Stephen Bonnet threatened him with having to stay on the ship. Stephen Bonnet had taken him onto a further port as well. Roger was clever. He actually asked for payment. He got gemstones, which he can use to travel through time rather than coins as payment. But anyway, with those gemstones, he went after Brianna again. Lots of credit due to Roger for that. He's on his way to Fraser's Ridge. He's looking for Fraser's Ridge. Who other than Lizzie sees him in the woods? Lizzie and young Ian go and tell Jamie, because Lizzie doesn't know who the person that raped Brianna was. All she saw was Roger fighting with her outside the pub. That's all she saw, and she thinks everything was because of him. Lizzie goes and tells Jamie everything that she knows about what happened that night, and that the man responsible, Roger, is currently in the woods leading up to Fraser's Ridge. Never ever ever seen Jamie looking this angry before, I don't think, throughout all the seasons. Not for Culloden, not for Blackjack Randall, despite all those things that happened with Blackjack Randall. And he goes marching off in search of Roger. Roger barely gets a word in, and he is beaten to a pulp by Jamie. Like, beaten to the point where we think he's actually just been killed. He has been murdered by Jamie right there in the woods. Roger's dead. That's what we're thinking. Or as near as damn it dead. He puts him on a horse and tells Ying to get him out of there. He just never wants to see him again. Jamie has got the wrong end of the stick. He doesn't know it was Stephen Bonnet that did it, not Roger. It's just a whole big misunderstanding. But unfortunately, poor Roger has paid the price for this. That beating that he took was so severe, he is going to be feeling that for a very, very long time. He's unconscious, he's bleeding, we don't know where's going next, but that's the end of the episode. Roger has been carted off by young Ian on a horse to God knows where, and all the time we're thinking, no, that fury needs to be taken out on Stephen Bonnet, Jamie. So, yeah, that was quite a rough ending, guys. Poor old Roger. I mean, what can we say about Roger? Yes, he'd been an idiot up until last week. Absolutely, I still maintain that. He'd been an idiot. Those fights were unnecessary. Didn't need to go there. Didn't need to leave and storm out and leave Brianna on her own. I know Brianna was hot-headed as well, right? But listen, he needs to be a man here, and he wasn't. And that's ultimately what led to what happened to Brianna, and that is ultimately also what has led to him getting beaten up by Jamie. But nonetheless, he's went after her again. He went back for the stones after her, and now he's went after her to Fraser's Ridge. So a lot of credit to Roger. I've kind of changed my mind. I think he's a person that says his mind, just like Brianna, and is often really silly about the things he says, doesn't think them through, but overall is well-meaning. And it's landed him in a lot of bother, actually. And wow, I don't know where we go from here next week. The Birds and the Bees, I absolutely loved it. I would love to know what you thought about this episode. It was emotional, it was a roller coaster, it was up, it was down, up again, and then way back down again. It was still the episode that you guys have all been waiting for. The one we've all been waiting for. I need to know what you guys think. Because I'm sitting here in Prague at the moment, feeling a bit disconnected from the Outlander world, and I want to know your thoughts. So down below in the comments, please. You can also send me a message on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. Let's get the conversation going about this episode. What did you guys think? Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. This is probably going to be my last opportunity to speak to you until after New Year. So I just want to take this opportunity right now to say whatever you're doing over the New Year's period, over New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, I just hope you have a great, safe, fun, exciting time. Happy New Year. As I say, I'm here in Prague. And we are going out to some parties here in the city, and like I said, I'm going to be putting all of that on Instagram stories, and there will be vlogs coming out in the next few weeks as well. But yeah, wow, Outlander. It's taken a long time actually for this season to get up to the point we're at now. We are now at the thick end of it, the meat end. We've only got, what, 4 episodes left? It has absolutely flown in this season. Season 4, just like a shot. What can you say? I don't want it to end, but it will come to an end pretty soon, I guess. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching again. I appreciate you very much. And until the next Outlander adventure, I hope you have a good night, morning, evening, afternoon, or whatever time of day it is, wherever you are in the world. Happy New Year, and take care.